All right, so this is how it's gonna go, boys. Hey, how you doing? Charisma. Let's get it. Every Dragon Ball video game intro ranked from worst to best. I'll be ranking all of these on music and animation, mostly. Obviously, nostalgia will be a major factor as well, but also, obviously, for the newer games at least, it's not really that applicable now, is it? I also just want to say that any game prior to like 1995 will not be considered here because, I mean, there weren't really any intros back in the day. Just a bunch of title cards, sometimes with like a little cute introduction sequence. Welcome to the game type of thing. You know, it's like a 10-second. It's not really an intro. And speaking of length, what? This also rules out a lot of handheld games as well. Supersonic Warriors, Taiketsu, the Legacy of Goku series, any of the Game Boy games really aren't being counted because, again, they don't really have intros. There are still some handheld games that I will talk about though, but no spoilers, obviously. I need that watch time. Before we get started, of course, this is all objective, undisputed truth, and I am 100% correct. Comment down below some of your favorite DBZ game intros, but in the meantime, while you're doing that thinking and stuff, let's get started with my least favorite of the bunch, number 35. Yes, I said 35. Get comfortable, boys. Number 35. Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai Another Road. Easily the most basic, the most nothing intro in the entire video, even compared to the other Shin Budokai intro. I mean, it's just a bunch of still images of random Dragon Ball Z characters with gameplay footage beside them. Not really much else to talk about. They sorta tried to frame it around the story of Future Trunks because he is what the story of the game is kind of built around. Almost like a prototype of the Heroes/Universe Time Patrol story, now I'm thinking about it. But outside of like the first and last couple of images, it's mostly just your generic gameplay montage with generic rock melody number 6 playing in the background. Man, I was there. I was there for the PSP era. I remember putting hours upon hours into this game, and yet somehow I do not remember this intro at all. That's very telling. Number 34. Dragon Ball Z Extreme Butoden. I'm always going to favor the 2D animated intros over the 3D animated ones. That's fortunate for this game, it's been spared from last place. However, the animation here, oof. Here we got Goku on the Nimbus Cloud, flying past various locations and moments throughout Dragon Ball's history. I really enjoy this one shot of Dr. Zero chilling with one of his original creations, Android 8. At the end, all the good guys and bad guys line up side by side as an all-out brawl then ensues. And this is where I find the animation to be quite a bit subpar. Everything just seems really stiff. The punches don't feel very impactful at all. And this one frame of Goku here gives me PTSD from Dragon Ball Super. And again with the OST. This time we got a generic rock melody number 37. Yeah. Number 33. Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai. I mean, it's a little bit better than Another Road. Hey, at least we got these pretty sweet panning shots, am I right? Of a bunch of different stages in the game at the beginning. Even if, you know, you can really sort of see the limitations that they were dealing with here, with this being basically a portable version of the Budokai series, especially for Kami's Lookout. You can literally see a wall in the sky. I think I like the music a lot more here though. Again, it is just more random background music from the soundtrack. I don't know, man. The keyboard synths kind of go hard. They kinda slap it. Just like the sequel, Another Road, it is just your typical gameplay montage for an intro, but some of the transitions here are just straight gas. Even if a bunch of these scenes do look like they were just horribly cropped gameplay footage to hide the HUD. Number 32. Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. I'm not really sure what happened to this intro. I'm not even sure if this is even like a real thing. I downloaded Dokkan the other day and this was not there at all. I'ma just go out on a limb and say they removed it because of updates and shit. I've never really been a fan of mobile games, especially gacha games. These intros do slap though. It's another mobile game on this list that we will get to later. I love this little manga to anime transition here of Super Saiyan Goku. And then I also like when he and Frieza then start fighting and they start cracking the screen, breaking the fourth wall and shit. It's kind of cute. Vegeta fights Cell. I feel like Vegeta's always fighting Cell. And then Cell, Saga, Gohan, and Majin Buu are also there. Main reason for me why Dokkan ranks this low is because it's just so short and I'm still not exactly sure this is real. I almost didn't even count it, but again, I put the other mobile game on here, so mobile game equality. Number 31, Dragon Ball Origins 2. Origins 1 and Origins 2 basically are the same exact intro, part 1 and part 2 if you will. Same 3D style using the actual in-game engine, same structure, just retelling the original Dragon Ball story. The only difference is really being the song and, you know, the story content. My only issue with Origins 2 is that it uses generic background music, at least for the US release. The original uses Romantic Ageru Yo, the legendary ending song from the Dragon Ball anime, which will always be a timeless bop. One thing's for sure though, these DS graphics do not look bad at all. They really make the best out of the double screen factor here. Number 30, Dragon Ball Origins. Like I said, Origins 1 or 2 are pretty much just part 1 and part 2 of the same intro. Origins 2 covers all the Red Ribbon Saga stuff and the Fortune Teller Baba tournament. Origins 1 covers the beginning of Dragon Ball all the way up until the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament. The thing that gives Origins 1 the edge for me though, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Maka Fushige Adventure, man, come on, bro. The theme song to OG Dragon Ball, one of the best Dragon Ball songs ever. Timeless, classic vibes right here. Finally, we have something that isn't just generic rock melody number 13. This is just too nostalgic, man. It strikes my soul. And again, the abridged version of the Dragon Ball story here is very nice. Not often you get to see Robot Oolong and Boss Rabbit, you know? Usually it's just Frieza, Cell, Boo, and Broly all the time. Number 29, Dragon Ball Heroes Ultimate Mission 2. Dragon Ball Heroes is a weird one. I mean, it's hard to tell which is just a promo video for the game, right? And which is like an actual game intro. There's a bunch of event-specific cutscenes too and stuff. It gets really confusing. I just chose to stick with the official mainline Heroes games, the Ultimate Mission games released for the 3DS in Japan. To get straight to the point with this one, this is my least favorite one, easy. I mean, it's not bad, just Goku and the male Saiyan protagonist avatar flying past portals of different times and eras throughout Dragon Ball until Black Star Shenron shows up and starts being evil and stuff. The animation here is fine, doesn't blow me away or anything. There's not really much action here either. And for that reason, and the theme song as well, we'll get to it, it's not as lit as the one that came before this, the first Ultimate Mission intro. And I'm just gonna hold that thought for now. Number 28, Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Now, some people might be shocked at this coming so soon, right? I've never really liked this animation style, man. This reminds me of some of the worst of Dragon Ball Super. Plasticky skin, sharp angles on clothing, soulless coloring, man, look at it, yo, it's yuck. On top of that, the music doesn't really match all that well with the visuals either. Specifically, this last scene of Trunks talking to Shenron, it really feels like they just slapped Chala Head Chala over this animation, as opposed to the music and the visuals working in tandem, you know? That being said though, it is still Chala Head Chala. Whether it's the modern flow version or the original, it never gets old, man. And also, this is still a pretty cool origin story for your custom character in Xenoverse. I really like this one shot of Demigra too, man. He looks so awesome and evil. My hot take is that I like Xenoverse 2's opening more. Yeah, I said it. Number 27, Dragon Ball Heroes Ultimate Mission. This intro is just wall-to-wall action, bro. The complete opposite from the Ultimate Mission 2 intro. As soon as our main character puts his game card in, he is then immediately transported to the middle of a battlefield. Frieza, Cell, and Boo battling against a group of Time Patrollers, and Broly wrecking everybody indiscriminately. Goku eventually shows up, and then we get a Super Kamehameha from a trio of Super Saiyans, him and the main male and female Saiyan characters, all trying to take out Broly. Great stuff, great stuff. Still not on the same level as some of the GOATs, but I do enjoy this one. I get a kick out of this. The song fits right in the same lane as something like Dragon Soul from Dragon Ball Z Kai. This theme song slaps. I think this is the point of the list where we finally started to move past all the mid and onto the stuff that like actually gets you hyped to play the game, you know? This gets me fired up, I ain't gonna lie. Number 26, Dragon Ball Heroes Ultimate Mission X. To me, I feel like this is like the Xenoverse intro, but way better, way cooler, that's for sure. Once again, we got our male Saiyan protagonist walking into this like abandoned arcade and receiving some sort of SOS distress signal from Trunks before being completely sucked into the digital space against his will. It's one of those short ones, it's only like 40 seconds maybe, but the music slaps in this one. It's generic background music, but man, does it set a mood. It makes it sound like you're in some sort of like dystopian, apocalyptic future world. It's awesome. It really just helps with the immersion, you know? This intro is like the start of an isekai series. It really hooks you in. Still not enough to beat most of the main console games, but I can certainly appreciate the vibe of this. Number 25. Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z. Well, it's Chala Head Chala again. Still not the original though, unfortunately. I think this intro is way better than Xenoverse's. Just look at the difference in animation, bro. The colors! Super Saiyan 3 looks amazing here. Not only is there a lot more action in this intro, but I think it flows a lot better with Chala Head Chala as well. Bonus points as well for this being the first game ever to include Battle of Gods material. The entire last half of this intro is solely dedicated to Super Saiyan God Goku versus Beerus, and it's pretty awesome. Better than the TV Dragon Ball Super version, at least. For the most part, this intro follows the standard formula, I guess. The main cast fighting against an assortment of Dragon Ball's deadliest villains. Nothing that sets the world on fire, you know, but it's a nice little OVA before you start the game. A game that I hate, by the way. This is the game that made me quit Dragon Ball games, actually. Ultimate Tenkaichi and Battle of Z back-to-back. It took its toll on me, that's for sure. Number 24, Dragon Ball Z Budokai. Another one that might shock some people. I know, this game is mad nostalgic. You don't gotta tell me. One of the first Dragon Ball games I've ever played. However, this opening has not aged well at all, has it? To be honest, even back in 2002, this intro never had the greatest graphics in the world. Comfortably, I think Budokai 1 has the worst graphics of the entire series. However, this intro gets a major boost. Thanks to nostalgia, for one, and I mean, a Chala Head Chala attacks, man. I'm telling you, it never gets old, even with pre-alpha PS2 graphics. The lads in the UK got a different intro with cutscenes from the story mode instead and just, you know, generic game OST in the background, which is cool. For the US release, though, I do appreciate Rock the Dragon, yo. Shout out to the Ocean dub.
Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level? It's over 9,000! What, 9,000? There's no way that can be right!
But yeah, still easily my least favorite of the Budokai intros. You're lying to yourself if you think otherwise. Number 23, Super Dragon Ball Heroes World Mission. Honestly, I just put this over Budokai 1 because the main theme to Super Dragon Ball Heroes slap, bruh. That shit is heat! But no, it's also because this pre-rendered 3D intro is way better than anything Budokai 1 could ever hope to accomplish. It's also probably the most accurate depiction of Dragon Ball Heroes so far. We see two kids throwing out their trading cards Yu-Gi-Oh style. The cards then turn into holograms one by one, setting the stage for this 5-on-5 team battle within this completely separate digital dimension thing, it's kind of weird. I think the auras here look really cool. And then seeing this what if battle between Vegito and Gogeta, it will never not be cool, right? At the end of it, the camera zooms out to reveal that this was all just a television broadcast, actually, which our male Saiyan protagonist was watching the entire time, getting inspired by. It's one of those that feel more like a commercial than an intro, but it's pretty sweet, yeah. Number 22, Dragon Ball FighterZ. Man, I'm just full of hot takes today, aren't I? I need you to understand. You about to hit that dislike button. Don't you do it. I need you to understand that this is not a reflection of how I feel about the game as a whole. This intro is mid as hell, let's be real. Watching this in 2023 really puts into perspective just how old this game is, to be honest, yo. It's already like 5 years old, bro. What is going on? There's been so much DLC. This is another one of those intros that feel more like an advertisement than an actual game intro. It's just a gameplay montage, you know, introducing us to the game's base roster. I mean, it definitely looks good. To their credit, the editing here is awesome, perfectly depicting the levels of intensity that these battles and fighters can reach. But yeah, I just don't think it's all that creative. You can tell this was made just to be a YouTube video to attract casual fighting game fans to buy this game. I mean, it worked. Number 21, Dragon Ball Z Infinite World. This is one of the classics, bro. Yo, from the golden era of Dragon Ball game intros, if you ask me. Infinite World, I mean, it's basically Budokai 4, right? But unfortunately for us, we don't get the same epic anime intros like we did with Budokais 2 and 3. Nope, it looks like they took a page out of Tenkaichi's book for this one. Even though the nostalgia is very strong with this one. I just do not, and have really not ever, liked the style of this opening that much. Goku's character design just looks a bit off. These auras are pitiful. They look like stove flames. Putting Dragon Ball in the 3D world is always a tricky thing. It's always a hit or miss thing, right? This ain't it, Chief. Huge bonus points for the original song here. The theme song slaps, and nostalgia, obviously. But even just comparing this to the Heroes World Mission intro, I think I prefer the animation style more in that than this. But again, nostalgia reigns supreme, bro. This game was awesome. Very underrated. Number 20, Dragon Ball Fusions. This intro, much like the game is made for, is just a really neat concept. I mean, going on an adventure with Trunks and Goten, the boys, and experimenting with all these new and unique fusions between characters. I'll always really enjoy a game intro that feels like a, like a true opening cinematic. Like it's the start of a movie or a miniseries, which is exactly what this intro was going for. I'm loving this 3D style, way better than Infinite World. This intro feels like a Dragon Ball spinoff aimed at kids. Just harmless, wacky fun. It's a shame we don't get to see that Cock-a-Roly fusion towards the end, though. Broku? I kind of like Broku better. Shout out to Broku. Why has there never been a console version of this game? Number 19, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. Ah, yes, here we are. I was just playing this game yesterday. Yes, I know. A lot of people prefer the Xenoverse 1 intro. I think because it's a lot more like the Dragon Ball video game intros we're used to. This intro for Xenoverse 2 is honestly one of my favorites, man. I just can't hide it any longer. It's so charming, right? And overall, just really, really unique. It's literally just an orientation video for becoming a time patroller, and I love it. Here we have Trunks and Chronoa, the Supreme Kai of Time, just going over the rules and regulations of what it means to be a time patroller in Kanton City.
Attention, all proud warriors!
It's an incredibly immersive experience the first time you load up this game, let me tell you. Really makes you feel as if this is an actual job with benefits and a pension. Again, not your typical intro. Yes, I know, it's not everyone's cup of tea. It also does get old very quickly. Like, this game has been out for over 6 years now, and I skip it every time. However, I am also just a sucker, really, for stuff like this that just really helps make you feel like just you're that much more a part of the world, right? It's basically just the Krusty Krab training video of Dragon Ball. I don't get the hate. Number 18, Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Tenkaichi. This right here is a textbook example of how the opening could be gas, but the game could be terrible. Wow, what clickbait. I remember being so excited when this game was first announced in 2011. This was the first Dragon Ball game ever, believe it or not, with character creation, at least in terms of console games, as well as being the first game in years with the Tenkaichi name on it. It was a letdown. But the intro goes hard. Starting here, the animation in these intros really are the best of the best. In a lot of ways, I feel like this intro is what Super should have looked like. The colors, the lighting, the shading, all of it is just beautiful, man. Beautiful! You can feel every single punch and kick, man. The action here is phenomenal. Easily, this is one of the best special beam cannons I've ever seen in my life. Classic Chala Head Chala 2. None of that modern flow remix crap. This intro is definitely an underrated gem, but I get it if it's been forgotten about because, I mean, the game, and rightfully so. Why can't Super Saiyan look like this all the time? Number 17, Dragon Ball Z Sagas. Another example of the opening being gas and the game being terrible. I feel like this intro is catfishing me. None of the other cutscenes in this game look like this. While I do think they got all the faces wrong in this intro, I also can't ignore that little kid inside of me that has always wanted a complete reboot of Dragon Ball animated something like this. Specifically when it comes to OG Dragon Ball, yo. Dragon Ball looks so awesome here, yo. The end of the 21st tournament, Goku taking on the entire Red Ribbon Army by himself, his battle with the Demon King Piccolo. I've always wanted a version of Dragon Ball that looks like this. I'll get into it more when we talk about the Budokai intros. Again, the game does suck ass, but Sagas does get a huge nostalgia boost for me, man. I put plenty of hours into this game when I was a kid and didn't know or care that it was a bad game. I was just that into Dragon Ball at the time, you know. I don't care what you say. This is the best History of Trunks playthrough in any Dragon Ball Z game, I think, ever. Number 16, Dragon Ball The Breakers. You just gotta love these cinematic style openings, man. Much in the same lane as Fusions and Sagas, the one right before this. The Breakers intro takes more of a movie approach. This isn't your typical AMV. There isn't even any dialogue here. It's just a silly but also pretty epic little cutscene of Oolong and Bulma trying to escape the clutches of Cell. It's a pre-rendered cutscene. It's a shame the rest of the game can't look this good, but damn does it look good. The sunset in the background, yo. Ooh! This one shot here of Perfect Cell walking through the fire. When it comes to 3D Dragon Ball, I don't think it can get any better than this. It's sort of like Dragon Ball meets Pixar. I'm almost tempted to say that this looks better than the superhero movie. Yeah, that's how good it is. Now, this intro does get beat out by nostalgia. I've never really been the biggest fan of this game, but man, I'd be lying if I didn't call this an absolutely gorgeous example of just how genuinely entertaining this type of 3D animation can be without any dialogue or any fighting, even for Dragon Ball. I'm getting real Tom and Jerry vibes from this one. Number 15, Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22. One of the classics for sure. Vintage Dragon Ball. I never played this game because it was just a little bit before my time, but I always thought this intro was clean as hell. Some of these transitions are just way too smooth, man. Future Trunks cutting the scene in half just so that Goten and Kid Trunks can do a fusion. Come on, bruh. It's a simple one, just a bunch of Dragon Ball characters, both good and evil, performing some of their signature techniques for the camera without much background art, but hey, everything here looks amazing. On top of that, it's also that retro 90s Dragon Ball animation style that is just inherently nostalgic even without playing the game. You can tell it's retro because Super Boost still has his white pupils. That's a deep cut. Being one of the first Dragon Ball games with an intro with its own unique animation, it's also a trailblazer as well in a sense. This intro set the tone for all the intros to come. Number 14, Super Dragon Ball Z. I feel like a lot of these teens here are just slept on gems in my opinion. This intro is so underrated. Everything about this game is underrated. I wasn't truly able to appreciate this game as a kid because the controls were just a little too complex for my 10-year-old smooth brain to comprehend, but I've always enjoyed this game's aesthetic for sure. Very 90s arcade fighting game type beat. It's another simple one, just a bunch of characters in the game powering up, doing special moves and whatnot. Super Saiyan 2 Gohan specifically looks incredible here, and the beam struggle between Goku and Vegeta at the end. Ooh! There's one scene here of Chi-Chi training by herself in the empty World Martial Arts Tournament arena at night. Amazing. Easily the coolest Chi-Chi has ever looked in anything ever. Big Chun-Li vibes. Yeah, I always tend to forget Super Dragon Ball Z has an intro, and really that just speaks to how underrated it is, to be honest. This is heat. Shout out to the Special Beam Candy Corn. Number 13. Dragon Ball Revenge of King Piccolo. You know, it's games like this that really makes me yearn so much for a proper OG Dragon Ball RPG game. I mean, I get why they focused on the Z story and Kakarot, money and all that, but man, I would die for a Kakarot style, Breath of the Wild style Dragon Ball game, man. Visually, I feel like this is what the Infinite World intro was trying to be. The colors here really pop, hair and clothes actually move with the wind, you know, like proper physics. The Dragon Balls here look amazing. There's two scenes here in particular that really made me fall in love with this opening first time I saw it. First one is this establishing shot of the tournament arena. The crowd cheering, confetti raining all over the place. Beautiful. The other one is this tracking shot of Goku flying throughout the Red Ribbon Army's fortress with gunshots and explosions everywhere in the background. Yo, they both really are just utter and absolute works of art. We back with the original theme songs as well. You got a song here by Hiroki Takahashi. Yes, that Hiroki Takahashi. And it's great. Big Dragon Ball vibes. This opening go crazy. Besides Dragon Ball The Breakers, easily 3D Dragon Ball at its best. Number 12. Dragon Ball Legends. I mean, there's just no reason why a mobile game needs an intro sequence this good. No reason. This intro gives me whiplash, I think. Everything moves so fast, and yet I'm still able to follow along with it because that's just how fluid the animation is. My God. Parts of this intro is like Ultimate Battle 22, but on like 7 times speed and also 3 lines of cocaine. The animation style here is more akin to Fighters though, I would say. Almost like a fusion of 2D and 3D styles. But just look at this fight scene, bruh. Goku, Piccolo, and Vegeta versus Frieza, Buu, and Cell. The big three. Just balls to the wall action, man. Super dynamic camera work. Seamless transitions between camera angles. It looks like a movie trailer, a video game intro, and a VR roller coaster all at once. Easily a top tier intro, and for a mobile game, that's saying a lot. Shout out to them for giving Piccolo some spotlight as well, man. They could have easily just went with all Saiyans. Number 11. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi. This one is all nostalgia, I'm not gonna lie. These 3D models suck ass. They might even be worse than the Infinite World intro, but Jesus, Mary, and Joseph is this opening just alpha as hell. Almost 20 years later, and the sheer intensity, the raw testosterone of this opening still holds up. Gohan and Piccolo backs against each other, teaming up against Cell in a swarm of Cell Juniors. Goku fighting Kid Buu in this weird interdimensional hyperspace that still doesn't really make sense to me after all this time. I think the Broly movie stole this idea. Yo, Goku and Vegeta's face off at the end, yo! You can't tell me you and your homie ain't start slapboxing to this moment. My favorite scene though was full power Frieza emerging out of an actual hellscape, surrounded by flames like a Greek god or something. Yeah, this was the opening that put hair on your chest as a kid. And yes, I'm only acknowledging the American version here. Still probably my least favorite of the original Tenkaichi trilogy, spoiler alert. But honestly, I think that's just because I played the other 2 games way more than this one. This intro is a certified hood classic, even if it looks more like a 3D adaptation of Dragon Ball Kakume than the actual Dragon Ball that we all know and love. Number 10. Dragon Ball Raging Blast. This is where things start getting tricky, man. The best of the best. Timeless classics. The absolute GOATs of Dragon Ball gaming. This right here is the first intro of the very underrated, in my opinion, Raging Blast series. Structurally, this is as basic as a DBZ intro as you can get, right? Cutting around the various parts of the world, niggas scrapping, you know what time it is. What makes the Raging Blast intro one of the GOATs, though, is the song Easy. Chalk it up to nostalgia, but this hit different. Sung by the one and only Hironobu Kageyama, the voice behind the legendary Chala Head Chala. No wonder this song is so nostalgic. No wonder it feels so damn Dragon Ball. I love it. Getting into a little bit of spoilers, while I do prefer the Raging Blast 2 intro overall, for personal reasons, the one aspect of this intro that'll always have the edge is the music. Easily one of my favorite theme songs in Dragon Ball. Kageyama-san doesn't miss. Number 9. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. This was a tough one, man. Here we have, objectively, one of the greatest Dragon Ball games in history. Maybe the greatest, depending on who you ask. But yet, this intro was never one of my favorites. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. I don't know. It still obviously gets all of those sweet nostalgia brownie points. But yeah, honestly, I was never ever really that big of a fan of these Tenkaichi 3D style intros. I think a lot of these character designs are just ugly, man. While this isn't as weird looking as the Infinite World intro or the first Tenkaichi intro, I don't think I'll ever get used to Gotenks' face here and his weird little vampire fangs. However, I said all that to say that it still cannot take away from the fact that this intro is another certified hood classic, a staple of a lot of people's childhoods, I'm sure. Every family event, birthday party, sleepover with the homies, whatever, this was the intro that got all the boys' blood pumping back in the day. This was the backing track while we talked all our shit. I don't know who all bought a controller, but y'all boys better get comfortable because I'm gonna be on this game for a while. I ain't losing. Oh, the memories, man. The memories! Number 8. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2. The only reason why I'm ranking this above Tenkaichi 3 is simply because of the soundtrack. Tenkaichi 2 has one of the coldest video game soundtracks ever, Dragon Ball or not. This intro song included. The American version, at least. That's the only one we're acknowledging here. The original Japanese version uses Chala Head Chala, and I mean, I guess that's fine as well, but hey, I never played Dragon Ball Z Sparking Neo, right? I played Tenkaichi. You feel me? Again, still not the biggest fan of this 3D animation. In fact, I think Tenkaichi 2 might be the stiffest out of all the Tenkaichi intros. But also, again, nostalgia overpowers all. Not only that, but I always thought this intro used a pretty interesting cast of characters too. Turles, Android 13, and Baby Vegeta. You never see these guys in intros. Of course, you got the main trio of DBZ villains as well, though, with Super Buu being the Buu of choice here, completing the nice little trio of Boos that we get in the Tenkaichi openings. Kid Buu, Super Buu, and then Fat Buu. Yeah, I mean, this 3D animation is what it is, and this Key Blast right here is definitely not a Kamehameha. But hey, the environments here are really cool. They literally fight in outer space at one point, pre-Battle of Gods. There's some pretty neat character moments here, like Vegeta and Trunks in this one scene in the hyperbolic time chamber. But above all else, man, above all else, the nostalgia is just too real. I love the music in this game so much. I was hurt when the whole Yamamoto scandal happened and they had to give all the Dragon Ball games new music, but I loved it when they gave Raging Blast 2 Tenkaichi 2 soundtrack, bro. I was here for that. Number 7. Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. We've been on a long streak of 3D intros, but now we go back to the drawings. Back to the 90s, everybody. Vintage Dragon Ball. You gotta love it. Again, another game just slightly before my time. The PS2 was my first console, if you ever wanted to know, anybody.
We don't care.
Let me tell you. And once again, just like Ultimate Battle 22, man, just this entire aesthetic is so retro and nostalgic and awesome, yo. It's this like grainy, washed out filter on it. It looks like a long-lost VHS recording or something. It's amazing. And anytime there's an original theme song, it instantly wins me over. This intro could have legit been an intro for some sort of OVA set between Z and GT back in the day, you know? We start here with the trio of Goku, Ultimate, Gohan, and Piccolo, taking on Frieza, Buu, and Cell in this half-destroyed city at night. Everything is so blue and grungy sci-fi looking, yo. Really reminds me of some of the amazing environment art that we got in GT. One of the main reasons why I'll die on the GT hill, alright? We'll save that for another day. Vegeta's just been lurking in the background this entire time, waiting for his chance to fight Goku. And speaking of GT, here comes Trunks and Pan, some actual GT characters fighting against robots and whatnot. Like I said, man, this is the golden era of Dragon Ball animation right here. There's a few oopsie daisies here in terms of animation, like Goku here, in this one scene being drawn with his undershirt from his other gi, but instead they just decided to color it in with his skin tone, you know, to cover it up. It's fine. They'll never notice. Hey, man, top tier intro based off animation alone. Hironobu Kageyama once again only makes it better. As a successor of sorts to Ultimate Battle 22, it's definitely a gem. Once again, set the standards for Dragon Ball intros for the next 20 years. Number 6, Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit. Ah yes, the other unofficial Budokai 4. Can you believe I was actually this close to cutting this intro out the list? I really didn't want to include any intros that were just, you know, generic gameplay montages, but yeah, I mean, Shin Budokai is on this list. Who really cares?
We don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
Nah, yo. I feel like I said this about a lot of songs on this list, but this one right here, if I had to choose any song to call my favorite Dragon Ball Z theme song ever, this shit hit different. It hit different. Epic training music. Listening to this in the morning while you brushing your teeth, bruh, makes you feel like you can change the world. Visually, again, it's just a VGMG, a video game music video. I swear, I always forget how great this game looks. For a PS3 360 game made in 2008, I kinda wanna say it looks better than Xenoverse. Yeah, it's just a gameplay montage, but it is also a pretty cool skim through Dragon Ball Z as well, up to Cell Saga at least. Still to this day, I have no idea why this game never got a sequel. Number 5, Dragon Ball Online. It really must not be understated just how important this game was to keeping Dragon Ball alive pre-Battle of Gods, pre-Super, pre-any of this new-gen stuff, right? Out of all the intros on this list that feel like hype videos or high-budget AMVs, even the ones that do take a more cinematic approach, this is in a league of its own, man. It honestly feels like a mini-movie. One of those animated shorts before the real movie starts, right? Like a movie appetizer. Here we follow a group of adventurers, led by a male Saiyan character and a Namekian warrior character, exploring the various places that the Dragon Ball world has to offer, until it then cuts back to the World Martial Arts Tournament arena, where these two characters are squaring off in what I'm assuming is the tournament finals. Everything about this battle is just exquisite, man. The choreography, the battle just progressively growing more and more fierce and intense, all their friends cheering them on from the sidelines, the mutual respect between both of the combatants here. For just being an intro to a video game, the battle here is just like going above and beyond is honestly an understatement. Even the music here, man, they're not doing too much, right? Like, it's subtle. Just a cute little chill piano melody. Not only is it elegant, but it also has a very welcoming sound to it, right? To the world of Dragon Ball Online. This is less of an intro and more of a prologue. This here, and really everything about this game, to be honest, is just one huge love letter to Dragon Ball, and I love it, man. Without a doubt, it's the most unique intro on the list. It hurt me to put this above the Tenkaichi series and the Burst Limit song, but I mean, come on, man. Again, it's in a whole different league of its own. Number 4, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. You know, I'm actually surprised there aren't more video game renditions of Chala Hai Chala on here. They used the song a couple of times, but yeah, it really is just Budokai 1 and Kakarot. And Kakarot easily blows Budokai 1 out of the water. Not just because of the 20-year graphical difference between the two games, but because Kakarot doesn't only just recreate this iconic anime opening, it completely reimagines it. Similar to Burst Limit, Kakarot turns Chala Hai Chala into this Dragon Ball Z music video retrospective. And also similar to Burst Limit, I constantly forget how great this game looks, man. The graphics here are just breathtaking, and what makes this even more impressive is that this entire opening uses the in-game engine. Yes, this is how the entire game looks. A lot of this intro is cutscenes from the story mode, right? So I am stretching the truth a little bit, but hey, between PC and 9th gen consoles, how much of the truth am I stretching, really? Now, I did call Dragon Ball Online the love letter to Dragon Ball, but the Kakarot intro is kind of that too, you know? Honestly, it's just a reminder of how good of a story Dragon Ball Z is. I mean, this isn't like Code Geass levels of writing or anything, but it's just a very simple, very solid story. Timeless. This is another game that I was just playing not too long ago. Playing the 23rd Tournament DLC, you know, it was fire. This intro still hits just as awesome as it did when I first saw it back in 2020 when this game came out. Chala Hai Chala, you can't go wrong. Number 3. Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. I feel like the long-standing, ultimate debate of what the best Dragon Ball video game intro is, it always comes down to Budokai 2 and Budokai 3, doesn't it? Whether it's the spectacular animation, the absolute banger of an original theme song, or whether it's just sheer nostalgia, this will always be towards the top of any Dragon Ball game intro list. If you have any taste, at least. Whether it's the scene of Goku and Majin Vegeta charging their ki, Goku and Kid Buu's epic squabble, there's a Kamehameha that splits the moon in half for Kami's sake, even Goten and Trunks being blinded by Krillin's baldness. This intro has always had a nice mix of explosive action and, you know, slice of life humor with super crispy animation all throughout. What was the pun? No pun. I wrote down no pun intended, but I don't understand what the pun was. Oh, super. Oh. Even my own jokes go over my head. Like I was talking about when I was talking about sagas, I've always wanted a reboot of Dragon Ball Z that looks like this, man. It's just so damn beautiful. Still only my 3rd favorite intro, for reasons that I'll get into in a second. I'm sure a lot of people are unhappy with this opinion. But regardless of what I think, this intro will always be a timeless classic, despite being the most forgettable Budokai game easy. Number 2, Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2. This one really hits home for me, man. The Dragon Ball game that I've probably spent the most time with, besides maybe Xenoverse 2, I guess. Damn, it's been almost 7 years since that game came out. I'll be in a box before I know it. I used to make tons of Raging Blast 2 content for YouTube back in the day, so yeah. This intro does hit a little bit different for me, man. It's 3D Dragon Ball once again, so I didn't quite feel comfortable putting this at number 1. But in a pre-Kakarot, pre-The Breakers world, this is easily the best 3D Dragon Ball has ever looked. The character models, the lighting, man, the textures, the auras, anything energy related here looks incredible. I feel like this is like Tenkaichi 1's intro, but way more refined. Whoever is responsible for animating Janemba's cube particle teleport ability, they need to give this man all the budget. Perfection. Pure action from start to end, man, with an awesome theme song that sadly had to be replaced because Yamamoto plagiarism shenanigans. It gets messy. Putting this intro over Budokai 2, yeah, it's kind of spicy, but I'm sorry, man. Again, this intro it really hits home for me, man. Raging Blast 2, 2010 to 2014. Good times, man. Good times. Number 1, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3. I never like to use the same descriptors over and over again, especially if they're really hyperbolic and stuff, because Like, not everything can be the greatest thing ever, right? But no, this truly is, to me at least, and I think a lot of other people, the absolute magnum opus of Dragon Ball Z video game intros. Everything that I said about Budokai 2, about how much I love the art style, brown hair Vegeta for the win, take that and then fuse it with everything I said about Raging Blast 2's intro, about how much the game means to me personally, and that pretty much sums up how I feel about Budokai 3. This was the first Dragon Ball Z game I ever played. This in the manga, and Budokai 1 story mode, sort of. That was my introduction to Dragon Ball. As soon as the opening guitar plays, man, it just does something to me, man. I feel like this intro is a huge reason why Broly and Gogeta are a lot of people's favorite characters. As a kid, man, I thought this clash between Goku and Frieza was the most epic thing in existence. Making a crater just by touching elbows, it was nuts. The GT, Super Saiyan 4, Omega Shenron tease at the end. Again, I was still very new to Dragon Ball at the time. I was just processing this whole Super Saiyan thing on Namek. And then there's like Super Saiyan 4 with the tail. He got his tail back. What is going on? I could go down memory lane with this game for hours. Just like Raging Blast 2, man. It's another game that I made plenty of YouTube content with back in the day. However, my closing statement will be this. If Budokai 3 isn't at least in your top 5 Dragon Ball Z game intros, then you must have fallen off of a bigger cliff than Goku did. Facts.
If it's me, I apologize. I'm just high, so sometimes I'll just emphasize. I'm just shy, so I really need to emphasize. After this performance, check my vitals, make sure that I'm still alive. 'Cause I give it all, give it all.